you want to help your child improve their communication? Are you frustrated and worried because you're not making progress? Communication is often a top priority for parents of young autistic children. But how do you go about teaching a skill that typically developing children learn as if by magic? Well, logic says that we should teach children words, and this is exactly what most parents do. They use books, label things in the environment, label body parts, all in an attempt to get their child speaking. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work. And that's because autistic children can often learn words which they then don't go on to use in communication. Now, there is a skill which I'd like to tell you about in the next few minutes, which is essential to launching communication. I'm Linda Phillips, speech and language therapist and founder of Parenting Autism, where we teach parents of young autistic children key skills to help improve their communication and social interaction. Now, what is that skill I was talking about? Well, it's called joint attention. And simply, joint attention is when two people are focused on the same thing at the same time. So I was working with a young boy recently, and I looked outside in the garden and saw 3 baby foxes. So I said, "Look!" Everyone in the room immediately spun round and looked at the foxes. Everyone, that is, except for the young boy who was looking all around the room to see what the fuss was about. He hadn't been able to use the direction of my face, my point, or my eye gaze to locate the foxes. Now, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they become distracted by something that is going on outside, or perhaps somebody who's walking past, what happens to the conversation? It starts to falter and then it fizzles out, right? No joint attention, no communication. And that's why we need to start with this very important skill in order to launch communication. The interesting thing about joint attention is that not only does it improve when we work on it, but we also see improvements in other areas like spontaneous speech, imitation, play, and the child's mood. So high value skill to work on. Now, how do you go about teaching joint attention? Well, with young children, there are essentially 2 key ways you can do this. You can invite the child into your world, or you can enter into the child's world. But what exactly do I mean by that? How do you invite a child into your world? Well, there are a few things you can do. If you try and make the child sit down and play with you, they'll probably resist and want to do exactly the opposite thing. But if you make yourself irresistible, the most exciting thing in the room, they will be curious. They will want to come and find out what's going on. So you can have a few silly props to hand, which you bring out every now and again. Things like a pair of funny glasses, or perhaps you might have a silly hat. And you want to become animated, you want to use your voice, make it go up high, down low, use your facial expression, all these things that will entice your child, encourage them to come and see what is going on. And the second way that you can develop joint attention is by entering into your child's world. So what do I mean by that? Well, simply put, I mean playing with your child. But the way that you play with your child is really important. As parents and adults, what we tend to do is we go into teacher mode. We select the toys, we put them down, and then we show our child what to do with them. So if you were playing with a train track and trains, you might take the train, make it go along the track, choo-choo, pick up some passengers, and then show your child what happens next. The interesting thing about that style of interaction is that it tends to actually decrease the amount of spontaneous communication a child will show. So we need to flip this on its head. We need to do something completely different. And the way that you do that is by becoming a really good observer. Note, what is your child interested in? What do they want to do? What do they do with the objects that they've selected? And then once you've let that happen, you then copy them. So if they're playing with blocks and they are banging 2 blocks together, you would pick up 2 blocks and bang them together. You would do the same thing. Now, the only caveat here is that you don't want to copy undesirable or harmful behaviors. So if your child was banging their head, or if they were throwing objects around the room, you obviously wouldn't want to copy those behaviors. But copying them will allow you to be in their space. They will be quite relaxed about having you there, probably, because you're not trying to direct them. And what you are doing is teaching them how to share an interaction, how to focus on the same thing at the same time, which is fundamental for communication. So there you have it. Joint attention is an essential skill for launching communication. It improves when we work on it, and it leads to developments in other key areas. And the way that we improve it is we invite your child into your world, or you enter into the child's world. Thank you for watching this video. Now please tell me in the comments something that you find interesting about joint attention. And if you found this video useful, would you do me a favor? Would you share it on your social media so that other parents can hear this message? And to thank you for doing that, I'd like to give you a free gift to help with your child's communication skills. You can find your gift at www.parentingautismcoach.com.